We have a guest today. I want to introduce you. His name's Thomas. I'm not sure how to pronounce. How do you pronounce your last name? Thomas. Okay. Thomas is a strength and conditioning coach, a professional strength and conditioning coach, and sports scientist. He's worked on every single level known to basketball, from the NBA to the G League to the NCAA to the EuroLeague to the Euro Cup to the Basketball Champions League. These guys got experience in every level that all of us want to be at in some point. So I'm going to kind of give him some time to just talk about his experience in these different leagues, give you guys some advice of how you can make the transition from where you were to the professional level. And if you guys have questions at the end of it, feel free to ask. Thomas, so what exactly is a sports scientist? What do they do?
Great question. Well, first of all, I want to thank Brad and you guys for allowing me to check a little bit of practice, because I'm very impressed with what you guys have here and also the intensity. The first thing I came in was I was impressed with the intensity, so I think that's always an important factor to everything. But to your question, sports scientist is pretty much supporting our decisions. That's pretty much what it is. Supporting our decisions in whatever we do. So whether it's as a coach or as a player, sometimes we have a belief that what we do is right, but when we try to dive down deeper, we try to find information where we can back it up. That's pretty much what it is. And sometimes it's small things, sometimes it's something major. But as you all know, sometimes it really comes down to one little detail, and so that's what it really is about. So
and you work with 2 different NBA franchises. What was that like?
Different. You know, as you all know, the NBA is a different animal. That's something completely different. They have all the resources that you can imagine. But what I've seen, what you've all known, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but the average career span of an NBA player, does anyone know that?
3 years.
3.2, yeah. So 3.2 years, that's not much. And what we see is all the superstars playing there for 20 years or maybe a little less, but it's only 3.2. And I think one of the reasons that I've experienced, or what I believe, is some of them might not have been ready as they thought they were. Just because you get there, that might not be enough. It's about staying there. And I think that's a very important philosophy that I've always taken with me as a strength and conditioning coach, but I think is also important for a player. It's not about getting that next opportunity. It's about staying there, staying and then moving up to the next and to the next. And I think the best of the best, they always want the next. They always want better. So I think it's much more than just trying to get there. And the ones who could stay there were the ones who just had really good habits. Sometimes they grew up with it. They had a really good surrounding where they could grow up and have very good habits early on. And some had to learn it once they got there. But having good habits is so big. And I just talked with you, Brad, about it. Yeah, you have so many little things, like you have the Normatex, you got all the little recovery tools. But as long as you don't sleep and eat well, nothing matters. And a lot of players don't, they don't want to get it, or they just don't get it, but it's simple. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate things, but it's very simple. We just gotta, do it. So yeah, that's just something really big I've witnessed. It's a beautiful job. Basketball is what we love, I hope. But it's a 24/7 job. You get paid for your body and your mind, pretty much, right? So it's not just a 9 to 5. That's something else. So so habits are huge.
Yeah, we were talking about that as well. I have some friends that played in the NBA, that played in the EuroLeague, and he was talking about Giannis and about their work ethic. I spend weekends with these players, and I noticed that their whole life revolves around their body. It revolves around their diet, what they're eating, what they're putting into their body, or what they're not eating and what they're not putting into their body, and also the type of activities that they like to do. You know, those activities don't include playing video games and sitting on the couch and watch. I mean, they might do some of that obviously because they need their rest, but when I go and hang out with them, they ride bikes. They like to go for hikes. They like to go jogging. They like to do stuff outdoors. When they go swimming, they swim laps. They don't just hang out in the pool drinking beers. They swim laps. They get exercise on a daily basis. Their whole life revolves around it. And he was explaining to me about Giannis, his experience watching him, and you can, I'd rather you explain it than.
But one thing that just stood out for me, Brad, is 1 hour before the game, so we're talking about a game where you have to be fresh, right? He was just sweating like it was insane. He was just working out like he had his hardest workout ever. That's what it seemed like. And that was just impressive to me, and I think that brought my mentality also to a whole different level. It's like, can he go just a little bit harder? And if that answer is yes, then you just have to do it, you know, because, you know, if he's doing it, he's already there. He doesn't have to really prove much, right? Because he has a nice salary. He's good for life pretty much, but he still does that, still. And so I think that was just very impressive, and I think something we can all take. I mean, myself as a coach as well, can I just be a little bit better? And if so, how? And let's do it. So as long as you have that mentality, I think you squeeze out the maximum out of yourself. And that's what it's all about, you know? Maybe not everyone is going to get, you know, $1 million a year, but you can squeeze out the most out of it. And for me, that's success. Squeezing out the most out of your potential. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So.
And I have a lot of players that come to my program. Some of them come in shape, some of them come out of shape. What kind of stuff can they do? I usually recommend some type of plan, so they're not just going to the gym and just doing whatever they feel like doing that day. Like, what would you recommend that they do to prepare for this type of event or any team that they're gonna go to in the future?
There's a lot of things I could talk about.
Just the Cliff Notes.
Sure,
version.
If I break it down, what is probably the most keys is first, consistency. I mean, you're not gonna get in shape in one day. And if you get in shape and you let it loose for a couple of weeks, you gotta get back into shape. So you're just playing catch up. That's not how it works. So I think consistency is one. And then two, consistency doesn't mean the same intensity of every work. Intensity is a bad word, but the same type of workout every time. Because I see a lot of athletes, they do the same exercise, the same routine, every time. So I think it's about balancing, well, contrasting very, very hard workouts with very, very light workouts. That's where you really get better. Because you want your hard workouts to be extremely hard and your light workouts to be actually a regeneration of your body. So you're recovering, your blood flow is going, and so then when your hard workout is there, you can go all out. And what I see a lot with players is they always go all out, they do the same workouts, and they just get fatigued, and they get overtrained or whatever the case may be. So I think contrasting is important, and that's not easy. If you love working out, I loved working out, but I would burn out. So you have to discipline your mind to say today is a little lighter. I'm doing the things that I don't like, maybe it's some mobility, some movement, but the next day I'm going hard at the weight room again. So it's really disciplining the mind to contrasting. So I think that's an important key. And then, yeah, I mean, those are the two.
Something I typically recommend too is having a plan. Like, set up a plan. Don't just go into the gym like we just talked about. Have a plan, write down that plan. Maybe you have 2 months to prepare for some type of an event. Don't just go through your days doing workouts and thinking that you're gonna be okay for that event. Make a plan. Write down, okay, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm gonna get in the gym and I'm gonna make 800 shots. I'm gonna do my ball hand. I'm gonna do this. On Tuesday, Thursday, I'm gonna work out a different part of my basketball game. And then I'm also gonna implement my conditioning, which could be running, which could be swimming. Make that plan and make sure you follow that plan every single day, because if you have it written down and you have a schedule, then you're gonna be more inclined to do it. And if you can't get with a professional that's overseas, like a player, a teammate, former teammate that's playing overseas, somebody that has the same ambition as you, and go and do it together, so that you guys are kind of pushing each other and making sure that you're on board and you're doing everything that you got to do. Another thing I want to talk about is the difference between American basketball and European basketball, more from the strength and conditioning point. What do you see that we do better in the US or better in Europe?
I think from a physiological standpoint, there was a couple scientific papers out there, but in the NBA, what you see in the NBA G League, the NCAA, the American style of basketball, high school, you see a lot of very short, extremely explosive bursts. That is more translating to the European basketball now more and more. But in general, European basketball is a lot of up and down. So if you're not conditioned, maybe that works in the States because you get a lot of rest periods with a lot of short bursts, with explosive attacks that you don't see often in Europe. But in Europe, you have to be able to run the floor a lot. That's just what I in general see. And the papers show that too, that there's a lot more, I would say, aerobic involvement in the game. And so if you're not having that basic conditioning, you're in trouble. So
if you guys don't like to run, you better start liking it. And you better have some type of plan where you're running a few kilometers at least every week. As a professional player, I made sure I was running long distances. I was also running short distances where I was doing high intensity interval training. So I would basically jog to get warmed up, and then I would do some sprints, and I would time my sprints. I sprint, I jog, sprint, jog. This is more basketball related. It's really difficult to condition yourself to be in a basketball setting. I think personally, when I was in good basketball shape, I was in the best shape of my life because you're doing so many different things. You're fighting against guys, you're sprinting, you're jumping, you're using many different muscles. So in order to prepare your body for that, you have to do a lot of different exercises. And like he said, switch it up on your body. Keep your body guessing. So you're not doing the same thing every day. You got to keep your muscles guessing. It's just the same with lifting weights. Sometimes I would do heavier weights, and then maybe 2 weeks I would do some light weights and a lot of reps, just to always keep my muscles activated and guessing.
Right, I want to pick up on that.
Please.
A little tip that I want to give you guys, because there's a lot of theory, but one actionable tip that I would love to give is, not everyone is fortunate to play 30-40 minutes a game. I mean, if you're a starter the team is leaning on you, you're actually lucky because you get that game shape. You get every week, maybe 2 games a week. If you're not, you have to compensate somewhere because you need to be ready for 40 minutes. And even more if it's overtime. There might be an important moment that is going to happen where you play more than 40 minutes. If you're not ready for that, that's a problem. So what we've seen and what we've done a lot with the players that I've worked with is when we have a game, all the players who play under 15 minutes, we go straight out of the court and we play 3-on-3. That's the best way to get in shape is basketball. If you can't, intervals, sprints after the game, because they need to be ready. And it's a perfect moment because all your teammates, or some of them, had a really good conditioning and you didn't. And we're frustrated because we didn't play. But it's up to you. And some coaches, they're gonna help you because the next day they're gonna help the guys who didn't play a lot. That's a great coach, you're lucky. But a lot of them, they're like, that's on his own. You gotta be ready, man. So I would say take ownership and do it yourself, If you didn't play a lot, it's up to you. It's a great day. If you want to do it the next day, that's fine. But you have to stay ready.
That's a great thing to put up, because in Europe, you guys aren't going to be playing the same amount that you're used to playing in your home countries, whether it be the US or Canada. Or you could be used to playing 30, 35 minutes a game. Here in Europe, the top players play 20, 22 minutes a game. But they're playing at a really high intensity. Defensively, offensively, they play at a very high intensity. So you have to be aware that you're not going to be getting all the minutes. And if you need more time, if you need to condition yourself better, do it yourself, because you're not going to have a sports scientist on your team, especially when you're starting out. You know, this club has one, but these players are coming from NBA. You know, they're the top level. So until you get to that point, everything's going to be on you. The motivation, the conditioning, you know, you're going to get what you can in the practices, but sometimes you're only practicing 3 to 5 times a day. You might not get 2-a-days like you do here. So I played in many countries and many different places where I didn't get as much practice as I felt I needed. And it happens a lot. I spoke with my last group. We had, I have a friend who's coaching in Lebanon. He's got an hour and 15 minutes practice every day. That's it. They're not giving him any more time. So these players, that's all they get. The rest of the work has to go on to them. There's going to be some that actually put the work in. There's going to be others that don't. The ones that don't are probably not going to progress in their careers. I want to say thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Brad. And thanks. If you guys have individual questions, I know it's a group, so maybe some don't want to ask it now, but I'm available, man. Like, this is what I do. I love helping players like you, because I was a player, and Brad was too. This is what we love to do. So if I can help you guys, please don't be afraid to ask.
EuroPro on 3. 1, 2, 3. EuroPro!